The U.S. Constitution! That's what this video is about. The U.S. Constitution. Whoa, the Constitution floating in the sky in front of a flag and the Capitol building. A book. A kid's book, that's nice, but it's not the Constitution. But this is the U.S. Constitution. If there's an eagle nearby, let it know. Or maybe the eagle knows already using that eagle power. I don't know if that's a thing, but it's time to learn about the Constitution. The Constitution. Can we say that together? The Constitution. Hey, could we say it even louder? The Constitution. Great. Okay, that's how we say it, but what is it? What even is the Constitution? Well, the Constitution is a very special document for the United States of America. The Constitution explains how the United States government works and the rights that we have as American citizens. The first part of the Constitution is called the Preamble. The Preamble. It's the introduction to the Constitution, and it begins with these famous words, "We the people." We the people. Right at the beginning of the Constitution, we see that the United States government exists for the people. The Constitution lets us know right away that the government is to be for the people, by the people. So if you ever see the words, "We the people," that's from the opening of the Constitution, and this first part of the Constitution is called the Preamble. Now, after the Preamble, there are 7 articles that tell us how the United States government works. The government has to follow the rules in the Constitution. In fact, all of the laws that are passed in the United States have to follow the Constitution. That's why some people call the Constitution the highest law in the land. The Constitution is the law that all other laws are supposed to support and follow. Isn't that cool? The Constitution is the highest law in the land. In other words, Butterscotch, the Constitution is a big deal. If you could let, all the other dogs know for me, thanks. And Mr. Whiskers will tell all the cats. Now, after the 7 articles, there are the amendments. The amendments. At the time I'm making this video, there are 27 amendments. I say that because there may be more someday, but right now there are 27 amendments. These 27 amendments are additions to the Constitution that came after 1787. Many of the amendments were written about the rights that people in our country have, while other amendments have clarifications about how the United States government works. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are really famous. They're known as the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. They protect the most basic freedoms of every American citizen. Rights are things that everyone should be allowed to do or things everyone should be allowed to have. Let's take a little time here and learn the 10 amendments that make up the Bill of Rights. I know you can do it. Okay, here is the first amendment. Amendment number 1, the first one. The First Amendment is a big one. The First Amendment gives us freedom of speech, freedom to practice whatever religion we want, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly. That means the freedom to gather together. And there are even more freedoms packed into the First Amendment. The First Amendment is a huge deal, and it may be the most well-known amendment in the Bill of Rights. All right, now it's time for the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, Amendment number 2. The Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms. We couldn't resist featuring Clarence here, okay? But this isn't talking about actual bear arms, okay? This amendment doesn't mean we all have the freedom to have the arms of a bear. To bear arms means to carry a weapon. There are different perspectives on this amendment. Ask a parent or teacher about this amendment to learn more. Alright, it's time for the Third Amendment, Amendment number 3. So what is the Third Amendment? Well, the Third Amendment guarantees that the United States government cannot put troops and soldiers in people's homes without their consent. This was an important amendment when it was signed because during the Revolutionary War, the British soldiers were allowed to stay in people's homes even if they didn't want them there. This bothered many of the colonists because it wasn't fair. The Third Amendment made sure that being forced to house soldiers in your home would be a thing of the past. Cool. Now it's time for the Fourth Amendment, Amendment number 4. The Fourth Amendment is really cool. The Fourth Amendment says that the United States government cannot unfairly search or take property from people. For example, before a police officer can search someone's home, they have to have a warrant from a judge. A warrant means that the judge agrees that the police should search that person's house. This amendment protects your private property from getting searched or taken without good reason. Alright, the Fifth Amendment, Amendment number 5. The Fifth Amendment gives people the right to stay silent in court if they decide they do not want to testify. There is a phrase that comes from this amendment. When people say, "I plead the Fifth," they are saying, "I would rather not say." If someone does not want to speak, they must not be forced to. The Fifth Amendment also gives people the right to fair treatment in court. Okay, now it's time for the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment guarantees that people have a speedy and public trial. The word speedy means fast. This means that the government should not put off the trial for no reason, but should bring the trial in a fair amount of time. The Sixth Amendment also gives people who are accused of a crime the right to have a lawyer. A lawyer is someone who represents you in the court of law. If a person cannot get a lawyer on their own, the government has to provide one. The Sixth Amendment also guarantees people the right to know what crimes they are accused of, and to speak face to face with the witnesses that are accusing them. Alright, it's time for the Seventh Amendment. The Seventh Amendment guarantees that people have the right to be tried by a jury in civil cases. A jury is a group of regular citizens that decide a case instead of a judge. In this picture of a courtroom, where do you think the jury sits? Do you have a guess? Yeah, the jury would sit right here in a place in the courtroom called the jury box. Alright, it's time for the Eighth Amendment, Amendment number 8. The Eighth Amendment ensures that the court's decisions are fair and just. The Eighth Amendment protects people from punishments that are cruel and unusual. Punishments must be reasonable for the crime. The Eighth Amendment also protects people from excessive bail. Bail is a payment people can make so that they can go home while they await trial. Alright, we're almost to the end. The Ninth Amendment, Amendment number 9. So, what does the Ninth Amendment say? Well, the Ninth Amendment says that the Constitution does not list all of our rights. We have rights that aren't explicitly listed in the Constitution. For example, you have the right to build a snowman. If you want to build a snowman and play in the snow, you have the right to do that. But here's the thing, it doesn't say that in the Constitution. But just because it's not in the Constitution doesn't mean it's not a right of yours. You have these rights that aren't listed in the Constitution. Okay, here is the last amendment in the Bill of Rights, the 10th Amendment. It's pretty awesome. The 10th Amendment gives the power the United States government doesn't have to the states or to the people. Remember, the United States government is a republic. It's a government for the people, by the people. Great job learning the first 10 amendments. Wow. Now, when I think of the amendments, not only do I think of the first 10, the Bill of Rights, I also think of the 13th Amendment, that outlawed slavery, and the 15th Amendment, which gave African Americans the right to vote, and the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. The amendments are really important. Okay, wow, you've learned a lot so far. So the Constitution has an introduction called the Preamble, which begins with the words, "We the people." It makes it clear that the United States government is for the people, by the people. Then there are 7 articles which explain how the government runs. And finally, there are the amendments. Many of them explain our rights, and others give us more information about how the U.S. government works. Basically, the Constitution lets us know who we are as a country and what rights we have as American citizens. That's why it's so awesome. Now, how did this amazing document come together? Well, in May 1787, a group of people gathered together in Philadelphia for something called the Constitutional Convention. The Constitutional Convention. They met in this building right here, called Independence Hall. You can actually visit Independence Hall today and go on a tour. You can see the room where the Constitution was written and signed. And fun fact, it's the same room where the Declaration of Independence was signed. So it's an incredible room. The Constitutional Convention met in this room in Independence Hall and worked on the Constitution until it was finished and signed on September 17th, 1787. Do you recognize this man right here? Who is this? Yeah, George Washington. George Washington served as the president of the Constitutional Convention. Do you see how there's a statue in front of Independence Hall? That's a statue of George Washington. If you visit Independence Hall in Philadelphia, you can see this statue in real life, okay? You can be like, "Hey, I saw you in a video." And it won't respond because it's a statue, you know? But the man who had the biggest impact on the Constitution was a man named James Madison. You can see him right here. James Madison was later known as the father of the Constitution. You may also recognize his name because he served as the 4th president of the United States. That's pretty neat. Oh, and Benjamin Franklin was also there. Benjamin Franklin! He's at the center of this iconic painting of the Constitutional Convention. I love how comfortable he looks, like he knows they're writing something that's amazing, because the Constitution really is amazing. It's a big deal. In fact, let me check in with Butterscotch. Did you deliver the message? Okay, well, let's try again. Thanks. Oh, Mr. Whiskers is still just laying there. All right, well, at least you kids know how much of a big deal the Constitution is. Maybe animals would care more if they were part of it. We the dogs or we the cats. Well, anyway, the Constitution was finished and signed on September 17th, 1787. And you might think, hey, they must have made it a holiday pretty quickly, right? But honestly, that took a while. It took a while. September 17th was a special day to remember the Constitution, for sure. There were celebrations, but it didn't become a federal holiday until the year 2004. In 2004, Constitution Day became a federal holiday. But when it did, Constitution Day teamed up with another holiday called Citizenship Day. They became September 17th buddies. You see, Constitution Day is also Citizenship Day. It's like a double holiday. September 17th is Constitution Day, make no mistake about that. But September 17th is also Citizenship Day. It's fun. It's a double holiday, you know? Now, how did that happen? Well, sit back, relax, and I'll tell you the tale. Once upon a time... Okay, that's too much. All right. The year was 1939. People wanted a holiday to celebrate being American citizens. A citizen is basically someone who is a full member of a country. The following year, in 1940, Congress set up a holiday called I Am an American Day. It was a holiday celebrated on the third Sunday in May. Well, the name was kind of long, so it got renamed Citizenship Day and was moved to September 17th. September 17th was the perfect day for Citizenship Day because it was the same day that the Constitution was signed. It's the Constitution's birthday. It's a great day to celebrate being an American citizen because the Constitution is what made this country what it is and tells us about the rights we have as members of the United States. And that's why Constitution Day and Citizenship Day are both celebrated on September 17th. Double holiday! Unless September 17th is on a weekend. Then both are celebrated as a federal holiday. On the following Monday, they want to make sure everyone is able to fully celebrate it. Okay, now here's the thing. You've already heard me talk about how special the Constitution is, and September 17th is Citizenship Day too. It's a reminder to all of us that we are members of this amazing nation. The words, we the people, they tell us that we are a part of this. You see, the Constitution is not just a super cool document from history. It tells us what America is as a country, how our country operates, and it makes us promises. It tells us about the rights we have as American citizens. What a special document. Whether it's Constitution Day or any other day of the year, the Constitution is worth learning about and remembering. I'm so glad you spent some time learning about it with me. Hey, I hope you had a lot of fun here. If you did and you haven't yet, be sure to take a moment and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of videos, okay? Special thanks to my patrons for making videos like this possible, and a big thank you to you all for watching. Wow, you are awesome! And you know what? I'll see you next video.